Welcome to Eagle Summit. I'm Justin Williams of the School of Public Affairs. I am the undergraduate recruitment and retention manager, so I do a lot of different things from admissions events to orientation, and I'm also the school's commencement coordinator. So I work with students all 4 years that they're here. Today, we will hear from our Dean of Undergraduate Education, Jessica Waters, and one of our faculty members, Professor Tricia Bacon. And then you will hear about the SBA Leadership Program from one of the student directors, and we will do some staff introductions towards the end and leave time for question and answer from students, parents, and family members. So just kind of giving you the overview of today, and I'm going to actually now turn it over to Dean Waters and Professor Bacon.
That's kind of half-hearted. Come on.
I know. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
No bar from the parents to families.
The parents just got you.
All right, there we go. I'm Jessica Waters. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education in the School of Public Affairs, and I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Justice, Law, and Criminology. And this is Professor Tricia Bacon. I'll let her do a quick introduction.
Hi, nice to see all of you here today. I'm a professor in the Justice, Law, and Criminology Department within SPA. I joined the faculty about 2 years ago, and I'm coming after a career at the State Department. I joined right after 9/11 and was doing counterterrorism there for about 11 years while I got my PhD, which proves I'm a masochist, that I did those two things at the same time. But I did eventually get there. I got my PhD from Georgetown, and now have a cat named Hoya that I acquired from one of my students. So that's another added perk of being a student here. And I'll be continuing on the faculty now indefinitely.
No one has it all figured out, really. And I can say this based on experience. I think if you go to some of these things, I remember sitting where you're sitting. I remember what it was like being an income freshman. But I actually do know what it was like sitting where you're sitting. I'm a graduate of the School of Public Affairs. So 20 years ago, exactly actually, I was sitting in your place. I remember the feelings of excitement and exhilaration and trepidation and fear. And I remember sitting in your place and thinking, for the past 12 years, I knew the next step. I knew I would finish 7th grade and go on to 8th. People told me I was going to have to take an SAT. I'd have to start thinking about college. I'd have to start thinking about next steps. I had a guidance counselor. I had parents. I had a curfew. Right? Things were pretty set for you. And now, for the first time in your lives, there is no clear next step. And that uncertainty is both exhilarating and terrifying. And I hope you're feeling some of both. Because if you're not feeling some of both, you're not being honest with yourself. If you think you have it all figured out for the next 4 years and beyond, you're already making a big mistake. Now, I think it's easy to come to an event like this and look at the person next to you and think, man, he or she has it all figured out, because he just told me before he came to the School of Public Affairs, he had done 17 internships and saved a small country, and started his own nonprofit, and had a 4.0 GPA, and was captain of the debate team and the Honor Society. And he's told you all this, right? You're thinking, how did he do all that and have such good hair too, right? If that's what the person next to you is focusing on, the stuff they did in the past, they're not looking to the future. And I guarantee you didn't actually do all that stuff either. This place that you're at, this sort of next step place, this place of exhilaration and fear, is exactly where you should be. I have a 7-year-old, and my 7-year-old has a good friend named Sadie. I wish my 7-year-old had said what I'm about to tell you, but it was actually his friend Sadie. And I was talking with Sadie about being a superhero. She was talking about being a superhero, princess, unicorn, something. And she calls me Miss Jess, and she said, Miss Jess, sometimes I'm scared. And I said, Sadie, sometimes I'm scared too. And she said, you know what though? You can't be brave if you're not scared. You can't be brave if you're not scared. And the only way you can let yourself be scared and be brave enough to take those next steps, to do the thing that scares you, to do the thing that will change your life, is to allow yourself to be in it. To allow yourself to know that no one has it all figured out, and neither do you. Now, I'm sure some of you are sitting there thinking, who is this crazy lady who's saying there's no, no clear path, there's no clear next step, who knows what's going on? There are some next steps. We know you're going to show up at the end of August, right? You're going to show up and you're going to go to class, right? Class? Every class? Yes, I want to see some nods. Nods. One falling asleep. Nods. Yes. Okay. I want you to go to every class. Do you know how much money you're paying for every single class? Your families do, right? You're paying a lot of money for each of those classes, so you need to go to all of them. And I know you're thinking, I have to do something while I'm here. What am I going to do? What am I going to do that first year? And here's one thing I want you to be thinking about. I want you to focus on freshman year. I want you to focus on year one. I think it's easy to come to a place like AU where all of you are academically gifted. You would not be here if you weren't. We only admitted 35% of our applicants this year. You guys have checked the boxes that you needed to check to prove that you were academically gifted, and prove that you are capable of joining a community of excellent scholars. And that's what you've done. But the only way to make sure that you will succeed in this community of excellent scholars is to focus on immediate next steps, initially, rather than what am I going to be in 10 years, in 15 years? What am I going to be when I grow up? I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And that's a good thing, because it leaves the opportunities open. This first year, you're going to focus on your general education requirements, right? You take courses in each of our 5 general education areas, things like the sciences and things like the arts. And those courses are the ones that will teach you how to think. They're going to teach you the critical inquiry skills that you need. They're going to teach you the writing skills that you need, the ethical reasoning skills that you need. And those are the skills that you'll take with you into your upper level courses. I want you to hear me on these next 2 things. It is critically important in this first year that you form a relationship with your academic advisor and with your faculty members. They are the people that you will form a relationship with for the next 4 years that will continue beyond these 4 years. So I told you that I graduated from the School of Public Affairs. And after I did, I left and I worked in the nonprofit world for a couple of years. Then I went back to law school and finished my law degree actually at American University as well. I can't get away from it. And after I finished my law degree, I clerked for a federal judge, and then I went and litigated, doing criminal defense work and reproductive rights appellate advocacy. And I was doing that like 70, 80 hours a week. I was on the fast track to making partner at a major law firm here in DC. And there was something in my head that said, there are other things I think I want to be trying. There's something that's just not right. I was in one of those terrifying moments we just talked about, where the next, I had the next 20 years laid out. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to stay at this law firm. I was going to make a partner. I was going to make a ton of money, and my life would be great. But there was something that I was like, ugh, something's missing. Do you know what I did? I came back and talked to some of the faculty members I had had as an undergraduate. I had had freshman year here in the School of Public Affairs, and said, something's missing. And they said, you know what? We have a 1-year position opening up here in the School of Public Affairs. Come teach for a year. See if you like it. I said, that sounds terrifying, and also sounds like I'll be very, very poor. And they said, yeah, you will. You'll be very, very poor. But maybe, just maybe, you'll be happier. So I took the chance, with the advice of my former faculty members, signed up for a 1-year thing, and 8 years later, I'm still here. Having those relationships with faculty members and your academic advisors are critical, because they will open doors for you immediately for internships, for jobs, for interesting independent studies with professors who are doing fantastic research. They will also be your lifelines 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
So let me tell you a little bit about how I approach my time as a faculty member. Every faculty member has a slightly different approach, but as you heard from Dean Waters and from me, both of us have very much done the things that we're teaching. So I'm coming at this from the approach of somebody who's not only worked in this field, who's hired people, who's supervised people, and who knows what kind of skills you need in order to work in the national security field. So I really focus on not just teaching you the content, but 4 key skills. And the first one, and the one you'll never get away from, is the ability to write. And you'll write all kinds of different papers over the course of your time at AU. I am focusing on your ability to write to a policy audience. And that is a very different style of writing than writing a 15-page research paper. What I'm looking at is, can you write clearly? Can you write concisely? Can you write correctly? And can you write convincingly? These are the 4 key things. If you make grammatical errors to a high-level audience, they will not listen to your argument at all. You will have lost them before you even started. If your paper is 10 pages long and you're trying to get the attention of someone who has a minute to read it, they're not going to get your argument either. And the concise idea is that your paper is as long as it needs to be to make your argument. And there's also a shift from trying to prove that you know something, which is sometimes what you're doing with your professors. And in this case, all the emphasis is on the audience understanding what you're saying the first time that they read it. And for a lot of writers, that's a very different, especially undergrads, a very different writing approach. So that's the first thing I emphasize in my classes. The second is essentially oral communication skills and a versatility at oral communication skills. An ability to function in a briefing that you thought was going to be 30 minutes and that you now have 10 minutes to give. Being able to function in different meeting environments, being able to interact and make your points when you need to make your points in a professional and persuasive way, but not always being able to go by a script where you have 10 minutes and then 5-minute Q&A. And so as a professor, I will give you an assignment that you are going to do a briefing on X topic, but it may not tell you how long you have, or it may not tell you that you're going to be interrupted throughout your presentation, because it's about developing those kinds of skills. The third skill I want you to learn is how to interact with one another. And I know that sounds very basic, but I mean in that kind of professional way. The ability to review one another's work, for example, and provide thoughtful and insightful critiques that do not alienate your audience. So that is a key part in the government. There's really no pride of authorship. Anything you write will be reviewed by, 5,000 people, at least. So you need to be able to put your products out there and be comfortable with other people reviewing them and giving feedback. And there's always one or two that's a little harsher than they need to be, and you develop that thick skin. The ability to hear what you need to know from what they said and ignore the ego or the other problems that come along with it. And the fourth skill is very, very hard to teach. And it's the one that my friends who work in the field complain about the most with new people in the field. And that is that intangible ability to figure things out. To not immediately go and ask for more guidance, not immediately ask for a 10-step process of how you do something, but getting an assignment and working through the different ways it might be done and you deciding the best way to get it done. And it is a definite transition. In your earlier classes, you probably will get those very clear instructions. And then when you start to get to some of your upper level classes, some of the instructions may not be as rigid or as specific because we are looking for your ability to start to work through some of these things and do it well. There's not a right way, there's just a number of ways to do it well. So those will be the main things that I'll be looking for as a professor as you progress through your time here at AU. One of the things that I cannot emphasize to you enough, which Dean Waters already talked about, is your relationship with faculty. So there's office hours. We all hold office hours. We're available every week to see you. And here is the chart of the typical approach to office hours. There is very few people who come when they're confused for the first time. There are the people who come when they're still confused. There are a slightly bigger percentage of people who come when the paper is due and they're confused. There's a much larger proportion of people who come when it's time for the midterm and they're confused. And then there's the people who come at the end of the semester to cry and beg for a grade. This is the exact inverse of your approach, what your approach should be to your professors. If you come see me when you're confused for the first time, if you come see me to introduce yourself, to tell me about what your interests are, to tell me about what your concerns are, to tell me about how things are going, you will find me very glad to see you and very interested in what's going on with you and willing to engage with you on whatever it is that you need to talk about. If you come to me for the first time here, you will encounter a very different professor. No one has ever come to me successfully at the end of the semester, cried, and gotten a change in their grade. And it actually adversely affects how I view that person if they were to come ask me for a letter of recommendation or ask me to call somebody that I know where they've applied. This is not the student that I'm inclined to use my professional networks for, but the students who come and engage with me from that early point are students that I build relationships with, students who I introduce to my colleagues, who I can give assistance to in getting an important internship. So what I want you to think about is as you start your classes, within the first month of your classes, you should go see every one of your professors. Within the first month. And even if like students will come in and they don't want to appear like they're kissing up and they don't know. No, you're here to introduce yourself. You're here to talk about why you've come to AU, what your primary interests are, and you will find your faculty are very, very glad to see you and will immediately recognize you and know you and interact with you more in your classes. And it will definitely benefit you. So that is my main piece of advice to you as you get started in your freshman year.
I have some unsolicited but very good advice. I'm a lawyer, that's what I do, right? I give unsolicited but very good advice. The first is take ownership. College and being at a university is fundamentally different from being in high school. Now, there are two ways you could go about approaching your college courses. One, and this is what a lot of people do, they go to class, they do some of the reading, they sit in the back of the room, baseball hat on maybe, hoping not to be called on, take some notes, show up, take the exam, don't really go to office hours, and they do okay. Maybe they end up C+, B-, maybe even a B if you're lucky, right? That's one way to do college. Could you do that? Yep. Could you do that in every class for 4 years? Yep. But you'd be doing it wrong. The other way to do college, the way to take ownership over your college experience, is to go to class and engage. It's to contribute. It's to ask the question, even if you think it's stupid. It's to go to the office hours and learn what that professor has to offer. You have entered a community of scholars that sets the bar. Our faculty set themselves apart because they're not just doing the research and writing the articles, they're doing the work that they write about. They're doing the work that they research. We have a professor who teaches campaigns and teaches elections. You know what? She also ran for office. Okay? We have professors who teach the inner workings of Congress. You know what else they're doing? Testifying on Capitol Hill. We have experts in justice law and criminology, on the death penalty, on sentencing of juveniles. You know what they're doing besides teaching? They're expert witnesses in federal court cases. That's the expertise that you want to latch onto. And I will tell you this from experience. When I was a freshman, I came in and I was painfully shy. Probably hard to imagine now, but painfully shy. And I was the one, my first semester, sat in the back of the room, prayed no one would call on me, did the work, did well in the exams, but didn't engage. And I had one class that I'll never forget. It was politics in the U.S. It was the honors section of it. And the professor terrified me. She's still here. She still terrifies me. And I took the first exam and I did really well. And I thought, wow, I fooled her. Okay, good. I took the second exam. I did really well again. I thought, wow, okay, maybe something's happening here. Third exam. We're sitting in class, and before she gives them back, she looks around the room and just says, Ms. Waters, I want to see you after class. And I thought, here it comes. They're kicking me out, right? And I went to see her for the first time in her office hours after this exam. And she said, you've now done really well on 3 exams, and you've never said a word in class. What is wrong with you? I thought, alrighty then. Guess I have to start talking. But she sat me down and she said, you're missing out. You're missing out on really engaging in this class. It's obvious that you can do the work, but that's not enough. Just because you do well on an exam does not make you a scholar and does not make you someone who is excellent. The other students aren't learning from you, and you're not learning from them unless you're truly engaging. Okay? It took that wake-up call from me to understand that I had to take ownership. You need to do the same. Get involved. We find time and time again that the students who succeed, particularly in their first year, are the ones that find a community. Right? You join the mock trial team. You join the leadership program, which we'll talk about a bit later. You join one of the hundreds of clubs we have available on campus. Maybe you think about Greek Club. You get involved on your floor. Right? When you find your community, that's when you will succeed. Join a club. Join a group. Okay? Now, notice I say a group or one group. Don't join 17. Right? That is the inclination of a lot of incoming freshmen. We have an activity fair in the beginning of the year. You can go around and sign up for clubs. People tend to go around and sign up for 27 clubs and then try to go to all those meetings. That's not a recipe for success. That's a recipe for disaster. Right? Because this first year, you need to be focusing on your courses as well as getting involved. Find resources. We talked about your faculty and your academic advisor as a resource. But keep in mind there are a ton of resources here on campus that are yours to take. We have a writing center. You You get that first paper back and it's covered in red, and most of them will be, particularly if you're in my class. Go to the writing center, get some additional help. We have a math and stats lab. All of you think, God, I thought I was done with math. When you have to take statistics and you need some help, there's free tutoring, there's free extra help from math and stats. If you find this for a couple weeks that you're here, that you're feeling depressed, you're feeling anxious, we have a counseling center. People who are trained to talk you through these types of things. Right? We have the Academic Support and Access Center. If you have a learning difference and you've received accommodations, it's there for you. It's also there for every student. They do things like study tips, how to succeed on your final exam in college, because it's fundamentally different than high school. The resources are there, and you need to take advantage of it. Get lost. Nicer than it sounds. This is part of my theme of exploring. I want you to get on the metro. Get on the metro and just ride it, and get off at a random stop and see where you end up. Right? I see some people saying, I already did that by mistake, right? I want you to explore the city. If I get lost, I mean that, like, yeah, get on the metro and get lost, but I also mean get lost in what you are willing to explore intellectually. Right? Take the art history class that you don't think you're ever going to need. Take the poetry class or the modern jazz class. Right? Take the astronomy class. I always say to people, I do a lot of alumni events, and I go to these things and I talk to alumni, and I say to people, you know, if in 10, 15 years I'm at a reception for you guys are the alums, and we're talking, and the only thing you want to talk to me about is that political theory class that you took as an undergrad. That's great for about 3 minutes, right? I want to hear what book you're reading, what show you just saw, what ideas are interesting to you, right? What do you think about the upcoming election? What do you think about the Supreme Court? What do you think about that new exhibit at the National Gallery? That's the interesting person, right? When I say get lost, yeah, get on the metro, ride around, but also be willing to get lost in new ideas and new experiences, the ones that scare you and the ones that challenge you. And then finally, coffee is not a food group. Now, I like coffee as much as the next person, but it is important, particularly in your first year, to engage in self-care. It is really easy when you're living in the dorms for the first time and you're surrounded by 76 of your new best friends to think, absolutely, I'll stay up till 2 a.m. every night, and then I'll get up and I'll go to class and I'll write that paper and I'll join my 17 class. You need to sleep. You need to sleep at night, right, for stretches of time. If you are hitting burnout mode those first couple of weeks, you're not going to succeed, right? You need to be eating vegetables. You need to go to the yoga class or run or swim, whatever it is that keeps you healthy. You need to find a place where you can be alone with your thoughts. And you need to find a group of people who are going to support you, okay? Engage in self-care. Coffee is not a good group.
Still working on that one myself, so don't worry about it. A few more tips in terms of managing your classes so you can succeed as much as possible in your actual classes. The first thing I'm going to tell you is remarkable to me that I needed to say this, but it's clear that I did, and so I'm telling you now. That first day of class, when you get that syllabus, read your syllabus. Like, we're not mysterious creatures that you're supposed to figure out. Everything we expect from you is in those syllabus, and so many students make that early mistake of not reading it and not getting a sense of what the course will require, what the instructor expects, and when things are due, right? We're not your parents. We are not going to be reminding you of these kinds of things. We expect that you know them. So at the beginning of the semester, get that planner out, write down when everything's due, write 2 weeks before that you're going to start what's due, because no one has ever gotten an A on one of my papers that they wrote the night before. You're not fooling anyone, I can tell, right? So you need to start those papers, because writing is one of those things that's an iterative process. You're not going to write an A paper on your first draft. So start to organize yourself very early on when you arrive and when your classes begin. And then once you get into your coursework, once you get into your assignments, there's something that I've been getting my students to do, and our little experiments is working pretty well so far. And it's called the tomato timer. You guys might have seen it online. We're all so distracted. We're like the incredible multitaskers. We're writing and we're checking our phones. We are working on an assignment and we're checking Facebook. You guys still use Facebook? MySpace? No? No? Instagram? How old am I? Oh my God. It's troubling. You're checking whatever it is that people check, whatever young people check. You're watching Homeland, which I've never seen. I'm not one of these people who's fun at parties, obviously. So you're doing many things as you're trying to do your assignments. And as a consequence of that, you're constantly resetting your concentration. Things are taking you longer, and you're not performing as well. And I'm as guilty of it as anyone. We're all sort of in this environment. And so we have to start to build in this really basic skill that we didn't even realize we lost, and it's to concentrate for even short periods of time. So the tomato timer is 25 minutes. And you say to yourself, I can do anything for 25 minutes. That's easy peasy. But when you set it and start working on something, the first time you would have checked your phone, the first time you would have checked your email, see how much time has passed. The first time that I did this, I'm writing a book, I set it, I started to write, I thought, I'm doing great. I'm gonna check my email. So I checked the timer and 3 minutes had gone by. I mean, that's how ingrained it is for so many of us. And it is something that you can do. It seems very, very simple. And ultimately, it means you'll have time for more things because the time you're working, you're really working. So it's a benefit to you in every way that you can think of. So as you start, I would urge you to try this experiment with yourself and see if you are, like me, a compulsive multitasker, and realize that that is not actually helping your performance. And study after study shows lower grades, lower test scores when people are trying to multitask and can do these kinds of assignments at the same time. So I would really urge you, as you begin, to try this experiment. The last thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is the whole idea of 80% of success is showing up. You guys know this quote. Do you know Woody Allen? I loathe Woody Allen. I don't think he's funny. I think he's sort of creepy. He's very, I don't know. And he's not right about this, especially in college. 80% is not showing up. You can't just show up to class, as Dean Waters talks about, and expect that you're going to excel. You need to come to class having done the reading, having thought about the reading, having engaged with what's about to happen. You have to come to class prepared to participate. And for all of us introverts, this is such a hurdle. But it is also, like the discipline of concentration, it's something that you build. If you don't like to do it, it's something that the more and more you do, the easier and easier it gets. You can, eventually take off that baseball cap and come to class prepared to participate. And my class participation is usually 20% of your grade. And it isn't like a fluffy 20 participation points a day. You have to earn those. Every comment you make in class, I evaluate and I assign a score to. And if you don't say anything, you don't get anything. You can't just show up to class. You really do need to engage. And even if a professor's not imposing it on you the way that I am, it's about how you'll get the most out of your class and how you'll excel the most and how you'll be the most prepared going forward. It's two things, really. The other thing I would urge you to think about is that you don't know what you need to know. A lot of us will think that. I don't need to know this. This isn't really relevant. I still can't predict that, and I'm fairly deep into my career. Be open to the possibility that we know what we think you should know based on our own experiences. And be open to the idea of learning things that seem to you like, I'm never really going to use that, because they can reappear in your life in very surprising ways. And the last thing I would tell you is to not tell yourself, and to certainly not tell me what you're not good at. I have students come into my office all the time and do this. I'm just not a very good writer. I'm not very good at public speaking. This isn't a self-enforcing narrative. You don't have to naturally be good at these things. There's many things that we have natural inclinations for, and that's fantastic. People who are naturally happy to be public speakers, I think are kind of weird, but I'm happy for them, right? Because it's not how I am. That's great for them, but it's not how I am. So don't tell yourself, don't go into these situations giving yourself this negative narrative. Certainly don't articulate it to me, because you will get an earful. It'll be worse than what you're getting right now. Because all of these things are skills that you can develop. None of these things are innate qualities that you have to have. So really start to think about this and have this open mind as you get started with your classes.
Okay, we're going to talk briefly about beyond the first year, but remember my advice to focus on your want to do well. Beyond that first year is when you start thinking about declaring your major, second year, right? You've all come in as intended majors, but you haven't declared your major yet. Do that intentionally, so you have room to explore, so you have room to change your mind. I did that. I came in as an 18-year-old convinced that I was going to be a journalist. I was editor of my high school paper, and I thought, of course I am. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go have an internship at the Washington Post. I'm going to be the next Roberta Bernstein. That is my career plan. enrolled in my first communications class and told to write news stories, 250-word news stories. Turned in my first one, came back, marked up with red, big old C on it. I'd never gotten a C in my life. What's going on? Second one, same thing. Third one, same thing. And I thought, what's going on here? And then I realized I didn't really like it. I wasn't passionate about it. And my whole life plan that I had at 18 went up in smoke after one semester. What I figured out is I didn't want to be writing 250-word newspaper stories. I wanted to be writing 50-page legal briefs. Right? That's where my skill set was. So I was able to change. And I changed my major and became a CLEG major. What's CLEG? See, you're paying attention. All right. That's why we wait until that sophomore year, to give you a chance to change your mind and explore what you really want to do. Now, if you come to me your senior year and say, Dean Waters, I'm thinking of changing my major, I'm going to say, you're crazy, right? That's not the time to do it. The time to do it is that sophomore year. Research. You're going to start engaging in research. Now, a lot of schools don't engage in research except for graduate students, master students, PhD candidates. Right? In the School of Public Affairs, we pride ourselves on providing undergraduate research opportunities. You'll work with professors, you'll do original research, and you'll have an opportunity to present that research at our Undergraduate Research Symposium. That will be happening during your sophomore year and beyond. You'll take on leadership roles in those clubs and organizations you joined, and you'll start thinking about those dream internships. Right? You guys are going to be here in 2016, election year. I cannot tell you what happens on this campus. It is just on fire. The opportunities you will have to work on campaigns if you want to, right? To follow the campaigns, to go out door to door and knocking for a candidate that you care a lot about, working with college Democrats or Republicans or the Independents, right? The Green Party, whatever your party is, the opportunities will be limitless. Every single year we have students who end up getting tickets to the inaugural balls, and they go to them, right? Their parents see them on TV at the inaugural balls. These are the opportunities that you'll have in 2016 and beyond. You're in Washington, D.C. You came here for a reason. The internship possibilities in that second, third, fourth year are limitless and endless. I'll circle back to a point I made earlier about connecting with your faculty members. Faculty in the School of Public Affairs have Rolodexes like you would not believe. That's how you get that dream internship. I'll tell you something that happened just last week. I had a student who I consider stellar in my office. And I was saying, what are you thinking about doing next year? Are you thinking about interning to be a sophomore? And she said, yeah, I think I want to intern on Capitol Hill. And I said, well, for who? And she said, well, of course, my dream would be to intern for Elizabeth Warren. And I said, huh, really? She said, tell me why. And she gave me a very well thought out reason why she wanted to do that. And I said, Monica, you know what? My college roommate is Elizabeth Warren's chief of staff. Let me pick up the phone. And I did that. Because I know her work, because I know her, because she took the time and the effort to make sure I knew her and I knew her skill set. And that's when we pick up the phone. I do that 27 times a semester. Professor Bacon does that 27 times a semester. Those faculty connections are key. Finally, you'll start thinking about studying abroad. This first year, your world is AU and is DC. Beyond that, it expands. Right? You're going to be thinking about going other places and studying abroad and gaining that knowledge and comparing our political systems to political systems in another country. Right? It's an opportunity to expand that base of knowledge and take those chances that we're talking about. So I'd like to end with this quote. I think it really encapsulates better some of the ideas that I'm trying to get across. Trying to be perfect may be sort of inevitable for people like us, who are smart and ambitious and interested in the world. That's you guys, by the way. But nothing important or meaningful or beautiful or interesting or great ever came out of imitation. The thing that is really hard and really amazing is giving up on being perfect and beginning the work of becoming yourself. You've heard me talk about striving for excellence. You've heard me talk about taking chances. You've heard me talk about making mistakes. You've heard me talk about falling down. Those are the things that you need to be doing over these next 4 years. You need to be taking those chances and taking those risks. and being open to the opportunities that those moments present. Over the next 4 years, I want you to take it in, I want you to enjoy the ride, and I want you to begin the work of becoming yourself. So on that note, I want to tell you guys about an opportunity available to you. The School of Public Affairs Leadership Program is a program that has been around for 25 years, and it is one of the most prestigious leadership programs in the country. It's a 6-semester, 15-credit academic certificate in advanced leadership studies. And this is something you would do on top of your major, and it's entirely possible to do your major and the leadership certificate at the same time. The application is still open. There are a lot of programs at AU where if you haven't applied already, it's too late. The application for the leadership program is open. No one can sell the leadership program or tell you more about the leadership program than the students can. So I'm going to introduce Anthony, who is one of the student co-directors of the leadership program, so he can give you a little more detail. Anthony.
Thank you, Dean Waters. Well, hi, everyone. First, I just want to congratulate all of you on your decision to attend American University and enter the School of Public Affairs. I mean, it's really strange for me standing here because it was just 3 years ago now that I was sitting there. I was thinking, what did I get myself into? I don't know what I'm doing here. I wanted to come to college to have a positive impact. I wanted to be a change maker. I had no idea how to do that. Well, it turns out 3 years later, the SBA Leadership Program was central to that future and really educated me on how to be a change maker and how to be a leader. It told me who I am, who I was as a leader, what I'm actually good at, and what I can contribute to. In the leadership program, you're not alone. You're surrounded by a group of passionate people who are passionate about issues, causes, campaigns, but that care transcends into a deep commitment to one another. In the SBA Leadership Program, you have the opportunity to create social action projects. During my first year, I worked with a team of leadership students to tackle the issue of sexual assault on college campuses. During that first year, our goal was to empower survivors and to change policy here at AU. We held a resource fair, we held a town hall, we surveyed over 400 AU students, and we created a new student organization dedicated to that issue. And by the end of my freshman year, we made the case for student representation on the university body that deals with sexual assault policy here at AU. During my sophomore year, I worked individually to create my own social action project. I had just traveled to India and Tibet, and I came back wanting to advocate on the climate change impacts impacting Tibetan refugee communities. Throughout my sophomore year, I created a new student organization called AU Students for Tibet, and throughout that year, we spread awareness and created new education opportunities here at AU for Tibetan students. Now this year I'm looking forward to an internship seminar and a final senior capstone with the program. Now the leadership program gives so much, but top among them is this community of extremely passionate individuals. Some of my closest friends are the leadership students I met during Welcome Week. And sophomore year I wound up living with 3 of them, but that's a whole other story. Now, looking forward, I'm extremely proud of all that the leadership program has accomplished. Many leadership students go on to be student government presidents, presidents of the AU College Democrats and Republicans, leaders in their fraternities and sororities, while at the same time obtaining prestigious internships like at the White House. I believe we have 6 leadership students who have worked at the White House this past year. They're also obtaining national merit scholarships like the Udall and the Truman, and are starting amazing careers in politics, activism, business, and even physics. So I want you all to understand this opportunity more. Tomorrow we're having an information session here around the corner in Ward 3 at 2 o'clock. There there's going to be a more in-depth overview of the program, of the curriculum, as well as the application, which is due to us Friday, July 17th. So I'm going to hand it back to Dean Waters now, but I'll be here at the end of this session to answer any of those questions right now. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to invite some of the key faculty and staff that students you should get to know. We wanted to kind of put names with faces since you've hopefully been interacting with them via email or you will start. If you guys could come stand here and introduce yourself and your role to the students, then we will open it up to question and answers.
All right, so I'll start. I'm Olivia Ivy, one of the librarians at AU. My job is to be integrated in with the School of Public Affairs and make sure that you have both the resources and the skills you need to be successful at research here. That may mean that you'll see me in your classes. That may mean that I sit down and meet with you one-on-one and develop a research strategy for the project you're working on. But I'm one of those resources that Dean Waters was talking about when she was saying, use your resources. So you should know my name, I should know yours, and come and find me.
And so I am another one of your resources. My name is Rachel Lindsay, and I am your career advisor. So I work over in the Career Center. And I'm here to help you all with all the different parts of your career development. Excuse me. So that includes figuring out exactly what majors you're interested in, what you think maybe you want to do with those majors, and then how to get started moving forward, how to make the connections you want to make, how to put together the documents like resumes that are going to get you the interviews, and then how to practice the interviews and everything else along the way. And so I'm always around. I'm happy to help. We do email, we do Skype. So I look forward to meeting all of you and helping you put together all of those different parts of this.
I'm Brianna Wiedock. I am an academic counselor in the School of Public Affairs, and we work with you guys on all kinds of academic and personal transition needs, anything that comes up during all of your 4 years. We'll be with you all 4 years. Look forward to meeting you tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Matt Brasser. I'm another one of the academic counselors. I do all the things Brianna said.
Hi, I'm Nathan Williamson. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Advising for the School of Public Affairs, and like Brianna and Matthew, I will also be working with
Around next to Olivia. I'm Chris Edelson. I teach in the government department, and I'm also the director of the PPL program, which is all programs. I don't know if there's any with yours. We have the PPL scholars. I'm also a lawyer by background, and my area of teaching and research focuses on war power under the Constitution. If anyone is interested in that, I'm very glad to talk about those issues. It's something that I don't really choose it this way, but it tends to be very top. So hope I'll see people in my class, and if it's something you're just interested in talking about, feel free to email me. It's Edelson, it's my last name, at american.edu. Beautiful.
Okay, so we kind of want to open the floor up now for any questions that students, parents, and family members may have for any of the counselors, the dean, some of our faculty members that are up here. So,
What can we answer? This is your chance.
and about
I'm
the
here as
leadership
well.
program, yeah. He sat down and it's out of my line of sight, so.
Come on up, Anthony.
Any burning questions, or do you want information on the list? Rachel?
Well, I guess it's just, so if my major's Clegg right now, and you're my academic person. Like, is there like a specific like list of classes where it's like you need this to like, even though it's like it's not our like declared major, but because it's our intended major, like a place where I can find like a list of classes that I know I need to take by the time I graduate?
Yes, we're actually going to go over that tomorrow when we have our academic meetings. We'll go over that major, all the other majors, and everything you need to do in the next few years of graduating. Walk away with that.
Excellent, thank you.
That service or what?
Is there a question in the back?
I think anyone up here will attest that I am very involved with students. I return every email, I return every phone call, and any student who wants to meet me absolutely can. I had an incoming student at the last call me and said, "You said you would return my phone call, so I'm calling you," and I called him back, and he wanted to talk about it in Japanese language class, right? And that's I also think it's critically important as associate dean of undergraduate. So I also teach in the Department of Justice Law, and I teach upper level. So I have seen absolutely real policy.
Do you think it, freshman year is a good time to start a whole study? If you studied French or English, so is this the time to start all over, or do you think?
We do have students that are picking up Arabic, Russian, Chinese, Japanese as brand new language. I've been pushing for it, but
I'll jump in and just to highlight the resources that we have to support that. The library has a subscription to a product called Pronunciator, where outside of enrolling in a class on language, you can set up an account for free and sit down on your computer, on your mobile device, and go through sessions on learning a language. So even though it's not required and maybe it doesn't fit into my schedule, but I really do want to learn Arabic, the library's got a resource to support you.
Should use that. I didn't know that. All right.
As soon as you get your IDs, you can start, Pronunciator on that A to Z list. Mobile app, everything.
Oh, an app too?
Yeah.
Anything else you can answer? Yes. Perhaps a particular so if you are a member of the PDL program, you have already been admitted. It's our 3-year VA program. But you could definitely do the leadership program.
Yes. You can do the leadership program.
There's a separate process for it.
Yeah.
Before theirs. Yours is now, right?
Leadership's ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
In the back? Yeah. Let that stretch. Anything else we can answer?
sophomore year.
Yeah.
This year, let's get your feet on the ground here, become familiar with campus, resources that are available to you here, make friends, make connections, start working on the academics. Then going into your sophomore year, we can start exploring internship opportunities. Plenty of time for this. Okay? We do have academic requirements if you want to pursue an internship for college credit, so we're not going to get to those until the second year.
I think the other part of that is to be thinking about when you want to do the internship, because a lot of times you'll find that timelines are much longer than you think. And so, for example, things for this fall may be closed in April. So if you're thinking junior year, sophomore year is a good time to be looking. But you want to be thinking kind of long-term about what you want to have happen and when you want to have it.
And Rachel can help with that.
I'm happy to.
Is there a certain how long
So I'm going to say that depends. It depends on a lot of things. So if you're doing it for credit, I'm going to defer to your advisors to tell you like how many hours you need to do. If you're not doing something for credit, it can totally depend on you, your availability, the place where you're interning. So I've seen people do 40 hours and I've seen people do 300 hours. And it absolutely depends on where you are, what the internship looks like, what the employer wants. And then again, if there's an academic component to it, that's a whole other set of things that you need to negotiate.
300 hours over the course of a semester.
Yes, yes.
I do want to underscore a point on this thing. And I'll be quick like that. We won't let you do an internship for credit your first year for all the really good reasons we articulated, right? And one of the reasons we have not articulated yet is that when you do an internship for credit, you do it in conjunction with the supervision of practice. And that serves a couple of purposes. One, you're integrating what you're learning in the theory you're learning with the actual. Right? So you're applying what you're learning in the classroom to the real world situation. And you're learning from other people who are interning other places. So maybe this morning, say you were interning, and the healthcare decision came down from the Supreme Court, right? Maybe someone, your chair, maybe someo's interning at DC Superior Court. Maybe someone's interning at the White House. Maybe someone's interning at Capitol Hill. We'll have really different perspectives on what just happened. Learning from each other in that situation is critical. Two, because you do it under the supervision of a faculty member, we make sure that what you're doing is substantive. We actually have a requirement that very little of your internship work can be administrative and right? We find out that your internship, it turns out you're saying it's not we'll pull you out of it and get you a different internship. It's not what you're trying to get. Because we do this in conjunction with faculty supervision, we make sure that you're done. Anything else?
So I'm interested in law school. Not alone. Are there any resources available to us for that process?
That's me. So I just came back from a week-long pre-law advising training, and I have lots of thoughts and ideas and suggestions. So as you start to think about that process, like coming up with a list of law schools, preparing for the LSAT, deciding if it's really the right place for you or if there's a different strategy to get where you want to be. All of those are things that I'm happy to help you think through, talk about, research further.
It's also your faculty. So, for example, Professor Edelson is a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. Professor Griggs, who we actually didn't introduce, who is a faculty member who works with the leadership program, is also a lawyer, right? So we've been through the process. Wait, that you're thinking you want to go to law school? If you come to my office freshman year and say, I want to talk about law school, I'm going to say no, right? And not because I'm mean, right? Not because I don't want you to go to law school. I'm one of those nerds who loved law school, right? Very often. I loved it. But I want you to be focusing on first year. I'll say, come back year 2 and I will talk to you for as long as you want. But I want you to focus on that first year.
So it kind of varies. Students, we have a research symposium every spring, and students present on a wide variety of topics. So we just had a bunch of presentations on issues affecting the DC community, like homelessness, the immigrant experience, police, and I forget the other one, wellness and health and stuff. So whatever your interests and your passion areas are, and you're connected to a faculty member who might be researching in that or willing to serve as an independent study advisor to help you put together that kind of presentation that you could then present at our symposium, sophomore, junior year, you can do that. There's no categories or requirements or whatever that you can research on. Anything under the sun, basically. And you can also work with faculty members from the different schools in the college, too. We had some faculty here in the School of Public Affairs who partnered with, I think I had a literature professor serve as another advisor, and then I had a sociology professor as another advisor. So again, depending upon what your interests are, what the topics are, and how you want to mix that together, the sky is the limit, basically.
One other quick note on that, 2 quick notes actually. One part of your curriculum will be research methods, so you learn how to do that research and do it well. It's not research if you just go out and say, hey, I'm really interested in this, I'm going to put some things on paper, right? We teach you how to actually do the research. Justin mentioned the Undergraduate Research Symposium. Another outlet is our undergraduate journal called Clocks and Clouds. We can actually be published. We publish 10 to 15 articles a year where undergraduates publish their original research in Clocks and Clouds. That's another option. Any others?
Any leadership questions? Right here.
What's the time commitment like?
Yeah, so the SBA Leadership Program is definitely a time-intensive program throughout the 4 years, especially the first 2. In terms of the class, so the leadership class meets once a week, usually a Wednesday or Thursday evening, and that's for 1 credit during your first and second years. And as well, there's also leadership team meetings where you meet with your group to form your social action projects, and then your social action projects itself are kind of like a part-time internship. So it's definitely a time-intensive program, but we like to call leadership an enabler of success. It connects you with many other opportunities as well.
Again, that presentation is tomorrow at 2 o'clock in Ward 3, if you want to do it. Or interested in learning more, I should say.
I guess just a question to leadership. Does leadership does a lot of your work revolve around exclusively the School of Public Affairs? Or does it mix with other schools?
So we definitely do an interdisciplinary and multifaceted approach to leadership, but it is under the School of Public Affairs. Though when it comes to social action projects, there's no limit to what you want to do with your social action project. That could be anything from sexual assault to environmental degradation. That could be on AU's campus in the DC community or beyond that. A student in our community just did a social action project in Nicaragua this past year that was addressing women's rights there. So it can definitely be beyond the School of Public Affairs, though we are happy that we are within it.
We are too.
So if you're admitted into the leadership program, do you have to remain in that?
No, we don't require that you stay in the School of Public Affairs to stay in the leadership program. You do have to have an intended entry into the School of Public Affairs to join our program, though we are there to support you throughout your 4 years, depending on whether you change what you want to do with your life.
So it's the 4-year program.
It can be 3 or 4 years. It's 6 semesters, so that allows for 3-year students to complete the program in 3 years, and it also allows 4-year students to be able to study abroad or work full-time at any point during their junior or senior year.
Any other questions?
You said that there's like a 1 credit. If you already have the maximum amount of credit, how does that?
So the applicants will be notified of their status the first week of August, and we are happy to work with your academic counselors to make sure that you can fit in that 1 credit. We usually never have an issue, and we work closely with the advisors to make sure that happens.
Yeah, for all the students who are admitted to the leadership program, the advisors get the list of students who've been admitted, and if anybody is at the credit limit or has some sort of course conflict, we get in contact with them. So we figure it out.
So the only time you can apply is freshman year.
Yes. And the application's due July 17th. What? We look at all the applications after the deadline. So as long as you get it in before July 17th. Though I believe the most quality applications are the ones that are worked on and put in earlier. Yes. So it depends on the pool and the number of applicants each year. We accept an incoming class of about 40 students, and last year I believe we had about almost 150 applications.
No, you do not.
There are many other benefits, however. You do not get to register for classes first.
Boys? All right, we'll see all of you tomorrow.
And we'll be up here if you all have other questions, you want to come up, introduce yourselves. Thank you.